Hello, crafty ghouls and Prima lovers. Welcome back to the Prima Marketing channel. I'm Adrienne, better known online as Alice Scraps Wonderland. Today, I'm sharing how to decorate a wooden frame with Bewitched, the latest Three Girls Tale collection. This Halloween-themed collection is full of gorgeous gothic details in black, purple, and hints of orange. This tutorial video will take you from start to finish, sharing how to customize a wooden frame with molds, how to apply the decoupage paper, some mold painting, and of course, all the fabulous layering of all those beautiful Prima flowers. And as always, I'll have all of the supplies listed for you in the description box below. So let's get right into it. I'm going to be altering this wooden ornate beaded frame that I purchased at a local craft store. The full dimensions of this frame are approximately 15.5 by 11.5 inches. The inside section measures approximately 7.5 by 6 inches. I've selected the Ghost and Flower decoupage paper from the Bewitched collection, but before I apply it, we want to first alter and customize our frame with molds. I've selected the Regal Flourish mold from Redesign with Prima. I really like the gothic flourishes in this, and it was almost like these molds were designed to be used with this specific frame. Redesign has tons of flourish molds to choose from, and I'm sure that no matter what wooden frame you choose to alter, you'll find a perfect fit with one of those many Redesign molds. To attach these mold casts, we want to ensure a long-lasting hold. To get this long-lasting hold, apply Finn's Heavy Body Gel to the back of your mold casts. Then to help hold these molds in place instantaneously, add a few dots of hot glue to your mold and then press it into place. I'm also using some small clips to really help press the molds into the wooden frame as well. Don't worry about any squish out of the Heavy Body Gel. We'll clean that up in a minute. Finish applying all of your molds, then go back in with your palette knife to scrape off any excess Heavy Body Gel. You can place it back into your jar or wipe it onto a paper towel. Leave your molds and frame for at least 30 minutes to allow time for the Heavy Body Gel to cure. Once cured, take off any clips you used. We'll be painting the frame black, but I want to keep the center where the decoupage paper will be applied free from paint. So use some painter's tape to go around the inside edge of the frame. I applied the tape in small sections, overlapping the pieces of tape. I used my fingernails to help get that tape pressed right into the crease of the frame's inside edge. It's okay if you have some overhang of tape. We'll get rid of that excess in the next step. Once your frame is lined with tape, use a sharp craft knife and run it right along that crease to cut the excess tape off. If you find that your craft knife took off a little too much tape or that you missed some spots, go back over with more tape and then cut the excess off again. I had 2 small spots that needed a reapplication of tape. Now for the painting. I'm using Finn's Heavy Black Gesso for this. I chose the black gesso because my molds are cast from resin and I want to ensure that anything else I apply to these molds will stick long term. But this gesso also provides a deep, rich matte black base that is perfect for Halloween projects. I used several different brush sizes for painting this frame. I first went in with some of the larger brushes to get the flatter, less detailed areas covered. Then for the more detailed areas, I went in with smaller brushes to get the edges of all the scroll work of the wood frame, as well as into the details of all of the molds. Now I won't show the entire process of painting this frame black, so here's just some of that painting process. I think the hardest part about painting this particular frame was getting underneath all of the beads. I used a small round brush for this, pushing the paint under and in between the beads. It took some time and patience, but I think the end result of this frame is just so stunning it was worth all of that time. Make sure to let your gesso air dry until everything has that matte finish. Then remove the painter's tape carefully. Select the Bewitched Decoupage paper you want to use and then paint the inside of your wooden frame with a layer of Finn's soft matte gel. Press your decoupage paper into the gel. I used a round stamping press tool to help me smooth out any wrinkles and press the decoupage paper firmly into the gel. I also reapplied gel where needed, as well as closer to the edges to make sure it was fully adhered. Then apply a layer of that soft matte gel over the top of the decoupage paper to seal it to your project. What I love about decoupage paper is that it is flexible and you can easily apply it to something like the inside of a frame or tray that has a lip around it. There's no need to try and create a template like you would need for applying regular paper. Next, use sandpaper or a nail file to detach the excess decoupage paper by rubbing the sandpaper against the edge of the frame. You'll see that the fibers easily cut away. If you have any stubborn fibers that don't want to detach with the sandpaper, trim them with some sharp scissors. If your decoupage paper pulls up while working because it hasn't fully dried, just apply some more soft matte gel. After removing the excess decoupage paper, I also applied one more layer of the soft matte gel just for good measure. While that dries, let's prep our mold casts. I cast the ghost and the little bat from the Bewitched mold, plus the large oval frame from the Ornate Legacy redesigned with Prima Mold. Because my molds are cast in resin, I first need to prime them. You can do this with either Finn's clear gesso or heavy white gesso. While the gesso on the molds dries, let's highlight the texture on the wooden frame. I'm using Finn's Metallic Wax and Celestial, which gives an ethereal, silvery vibe when applied to black paint. I like to squeeze a little bit of wax out onto some plastic packaging. Then I dab my finger or stenciling brush into it. I use my fingers to apply over the molds and the brush over the wooden scrollwork and beads of the frame. My tip for working with wax is to always dab the excess wax off your brush or finger. I dab into the wax, then dab my finger or brush somewhere else on the plastic packaging to get that excess off before applying it to my project. Remember, you can always apply more layers of wax, but it's next to impossible and time-consuming to cover it back up or take it away. So always have the mantra of less is more when applying wax. Also, your fingers tend to give a heavier, thicker application of wax than a brush does. To finish up and get into those deeper bits of the mold that my fingers couldn't reach, I use the stenciling brush on the molds, and to really make the center of the frame pop, I add more wax with my fingers to the beads to amp up that contrast. Once the gesso on your molds is dry, you can begin painting them. I'm using a few different types of paint to cover my molds, but the main one is the Pastel Dreams watercolor palette from Art Philosophy. If you use watercolors, you want to add a few drops of water to each color pan you want to use and let it sit for 5 minutes to soften the colors. This will give you more pigment on your brush. I start out by using a mix of the orange and a bit of the lighter brown, numbers 42 and 38, to paint the jack-o'-lantern. To cover the bat and the oval frame, I use the purple and a bit of the lighter brown, numbers 48 and 38. We'll be layering up colors on the bat and the frame, so paint the entirety of the molds with the color mix. Watercoloring molds is all about layering and letting each layer dry before adding the next. If you want to see a full-length tutorial on how to paint detailed molds with watercolors, check out my Cherry Sweet tutorial, which I'll have linked in the upper right corner of this video for you. Once that layer is dry on the frame, go back in with just the pure purple from the pan and paint the ribbon at the top of the frame. Then add a bit to the bat, leaving the center of her belly and the highlights of her face alone. This will add more dimension to her. Then paint the stem of the jack-o'-lantern with the brown color. I also added a bit of the pure purple to the frame, leaving some areas with the purple-brown mix of paint, and touched up the ribbon in spots. Then using either a matte black acrylic paint or Finn's heavy black gesso, paint the hat, eyes, mouth, and the inside of the jack-o'-lantern on the ghost mold. I also added a bit of the brown paint to the crevices around the ghost's hands and the jack-o'-lantern. I got a bit messy, but that's okay. We'll be going over the body of the ghost with several layers of white. Add black to the eyes and nose of the bat, and add 2 small strokes to the outer corner of each eye to create little eyelashes on the bat. Then add some of the black to the creases of the wings and around the sides of the head and body to create more dimension in your paint job. Next, use that same black to paint the flowers and leaves on the oval frame mold. Watercolor will always react when you add something wet to it, but acrylic is permanent when dry. So to lock in the messy watercolor bleed on the ghost's body, paint the ghost with Finn's titanium white acrylic paint. While that dries, add the celestial wax with a stenciling brush to the oval frame to give it that pearly glow. To give this frame a spookier feel, apply the graphite wax to the frame with your stenciling brush. Apply it lighter here. We still want the glowy purple to show through. Then add a touch of the celestial wax to the bat mold. Now that the watercolors on the ghost are locked in, paint the ghost with a layer of Finn's white gesso. This gesso is more opaque than the white liquid acrylic and will help to hide any of that watercolor we don't want to see on the body of the ghost. After that layer of gesso is dry, go back over the ghost one more time with the titanium white to make her glossy. Then add the tiniest of dots to the eyes of the ghost and the bat to bring their eyes to life. Finally, add a touch of the celestial wax to the hat and jack-o'-lantern of the ghost to tie it all in with the other molds. I'm using a bit of the ghost and floral paper from the 12x12 paper pad to add to the center of the oval frame mold. Trace the outer edge of your mold onto your paper and then use a pair of scissors to cut just inside that traced oval. Also trace your mold onto a piece of thick cardstock or chipboard and cut that out as well. Use your favorite liquid adhesive to glue the patterned paper to the back of your frame mold. Then glue the chipboard or cardstock to the back of that. This will make your frame more sturdy and you won't have to worry about your paper getting damaged. To pop the frame mold up, glue 4 pieces of cardboard together with hot glue. To help hide the cardboard, paint the edges of it with the black gesso. Then glue the stack of cardboard to the back of the frame mold with hot glue, pressing the pieces together well. Then glue the cardboard with the frame mold to the center of your wooden frame with more hot glue. Now it's time for every Prima flower lover's favorite part. I've chosen to use several of the flowers in this collection, and I start by dry fitting some of them to my frame and removing the greens off the backs. Work on gluing the lower cluster of flowers to the frame with hot glue. You can always use heavy-bodied gel if you like to have more work time or remove something after changing your mind. I am also tucking in some small nests of sisal fibers with the larger purple flowers. To add to the flowers, I've die cut some leaves from scraps of patterned paper from the Bewitched collection. Here you can see I'm just adding some life to these leaves and making them look more dimensional by shaping them with some tools. You can also use your fingers to curl the ends of your die cut leaves as well. Then I add some lace drops to the back of one of the large black flowers and then glue this on top of the flowers already glued to the frame. I tuck in the orange witch hat from the ephemera pack in this collection. To help angle the top of it up a bit, I add a small bit of foam adhesive to the back of it and hot glue it in place. Then I tuck in some of the die cut leaves and some of the small black daisies from the Bewitched collection. Then I do the same thing with the top cluster of flowers, adding in some sisal fibers and die cut leaves. I know that some people have a hard time covering up any part of their pretty Prima flowers with another flower, but I really enjoy this stacked look and it offers so much dimension to your projects, and that dimension is what really brings it to life. When you look at the project from other angles, you can see more of the flowers on the bottom layer, so don't let this overhead shot fool you into thinking you won't be able to see the purple flowers. And sometimes it really is all about letting just a bit of that other color pop in little spots. It's all about the effect that you want to achieve, so don't be afraid to experiment with stacking up your flowers. Now let's get to finishing up with adding the smaller molds and some sparkling touches. Add a bit of foam adhesive to the back of your ghost mold and secure it by adding a small amount of hot glue around the edges of the foam. I haven't glued my ghost to the project yet because I want to make sure I get her in just the right spot. I'll be adding a chipboard sentiment to the bottom of the frame along with these small wildflowers from the collection. I dry fit everything by just placing them on my project without glue. When I'm happy with the placement, I add hot glue to the back of the flowers and secure it in place. I then remove the backing on the foam adhesive on the ghost and press her into place, then glue the chipboard sentiment down with some hot glue. Once the main elements are glued down, we can start to add the sparkly touches. Apply small amounts of Finn's soft matte gel to the purple flowers. I hit the flower centers and some of the edges of the petals. Then sprinkle on a purple glitter from the Autumn Glitter set. Tap off the excess and you can place this back into the jar. Then go back in again with the soft matte gel, this time applying it to the black flowers. I apply a black glitter from the Ebony and Ivory glitter set. I chose this fun glitter that has a bit of holographic rainbow sparkle to it. Now that we're done tapping excess glitter off our project, we can add the tiny little bat to the top center of the frame mold with some heavy body gel. We can also add some of the gems from the Bewitched collection to our project. I live in a really dry climate, and so sometimes the backing of these gems dries out and the gems fall off. So to secure them better in my climate, I add a small dot of liquid glue to place the gems in. Last but not least, shape the wings of 3 of the bat ephemera to give them more life, then gently bend the wings up from the body. Add a bit of foam adhesive to the back of each and then glue them to your project with a tiny dot of hot glue or heavy body gel. I used heavy body gel to attach it to molds and hot glue to attach to paper flowers. And once all of the adhesive is cured, you can safely remove any unwanted looped hanger. I had this jute twine loop at the top that I cut off as it didn't match, and I'll be hanging this in another way. You can always add some pretty ribbon to the top of your frame, but I like mine as it is. Let me know what you think of this project and what your favorite piece from the Bewitched collection is. It's hard for me to decide. I love the entire collection. Don't forget to hit the subscribe button and to like this video to get more amazing inspiration and content from the Prima Design team. And until next time, happy spooky season crafting!